Live. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
I'm
folks.
very happy to be here with Paul. Do you want to start us off with an introduction to yourself and your books, Paul? They've got
Yeah,
nice behind you.
brilliant. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yes, my name is Paul Gitsham, and I am the author of the DCI Warren Jones series of novels, which are basically presented behind me. Although I noticed that if I twist that slightly, the price to pay now becomes visible. I'll put that back because that's a little bit disconcerting at that angle. This month, in fact, indeed, just last week, it was the release of the 9th full length in the series. There are 4 shorter novellas there as well, and a free short story on my website. I'll tell you about that later on. Webalize. So this is obviously the paperback version, which will be out on the 24th, along with the audio book, which is again being narrated by Malk Williams. Anybody who is thinking of the Crime Cymru Festival, by the way, which is coming up in a few weeks' time, Malk, the audio book expert, Alex Hawley, and I will be having a little chat. We're going to pre-record it, so it'll be available virtually if you're not able to make the festival in the festival. If you are not able to make the festival in person, as I am unable to do, then our recording will be available. As I said, this came out digital last week, and it's paperback and audiobook coming out on April the 27th. And yeah, basically that's what we want to talk about. So what would you like to ask, Caroline?
I'd like to ask, tell us a bit about yourself first, or your non-author self, because you are a ridiculously clever man.
I think is that my wife I can hear laughing in the background. Right. No. She tells me that she's happy with that compliment. Right. Okay. Yes. So basically, I started off as a scientist. I did a PhD in biology, did some research in Manchester, and a brief stint in Toronto. By which time I wasn't enjoying the life in a university as much. So I came back and joined the family profession because my mother is also a teacher, and I retrained as a science teacher. And that's what I was doing for the last few years. More recently, I've transitioned out of the classroom and I now do online science tutoring. Kaz, of course, is a science teacher as well. So we have had the odd chat when we are both biologists by profession. But yeah, primarily online tutoring. But that now means that I'm largely a full-time writer now, which has been quite a change in the last few years.
How does that? So if you're doing online, how do you write around that? Do you sort of have set times that you write and then?
No, I'm not that old.
Because it's
No,
not an easy job to leave, is it? Even if
yeah.
you're tutoring online.
So basically, my tutoring. I only do a few hours a week, and it's basically I do. So when COVID struck, and obviously all the schools went to online teaching, and I was still a teacher at that point. I was working virtually, just like Kaz and all the other teachers out there. But when after that, the government put some money into catch-up tutoring. And Pearson, one of the exam boards, basically set it up for they got a load of contracts. And what I essentially do is I work with the school, and they buy a block of 15 lessons for up to 3 pupils, and I basically work through those 15 lessons on topics that are relevant to what the teachers think that they need to learn. And it'll typically be an hour at specific times of the week. So I have a calendar that's kind of got sort of random dots here and there. I'm tutoring at 3:30 tomorrow, or the day after that I'm tutoring at 6. So it varies, and I basically fit being a writer and doing everything else around that. I also do a lot of writing in late in the evening. I've always been a night owl, and I found that actually I can get a real creative burst late at night. and I can get knock out 1,000 or 1,500 words in a sitting, and I seem to be more efficient than I am during the day. Perhaps fewer distractions because you obviously don't get as many emails and stuff like that late at night. But yeah, so my work patterns are quite haphazard, but they do seem to work reasonably well.
Well, you've got a large body of books behind you. Does it
Yes.
attest to that?
Yeah, well, it's been 9 years since Warren hit the shelves for the first time. So it was spring 2014 when the last straw came out. Since then, I've produced loads, 9 full lengths. So that, and then I also a few years ago wrote 4 novellas that were sort of interspersed. So there's a book, there's one between books 2 and 3, one between 3 and 4, one between 4 and 5, one between 5 and 6. There's also a couple of short stories. There's one in a collection by the Crime Writers Association called "The Music of the Night," where the story had to bring music in somehow. And I'd hardly listen to any music, but I did manage to get a story based around or referencing an Annie Lennox song. So I was quite pleased with that. And then the first ever appearance of Warren Jones, which was back in about 2013, was a short story that appeared in a anthology by my local writing group, the Hartford Writers Circle. And that story was always shorter than I wanted it to be. We were because it was obviously our own little anthology and everybody had to wanted to get in there. We were limited by the length of the story. And I managed to negotiate an additional 500 words because we had some poets who weren't using their 3,000 word allowance. But it was a bit cramped. It needed room to breathe. So when lockdown hit, my publisher said, "Look, if you've got any short stories, then it's possible that some of the magazines are looking for them. Send us what you got." So I rewrote it and expanded it out. And the story is essentially the same, but I gave more room to breathe. And I've got another 8 or 9 years writing experience of these characters. So I think, although it's set really early on in the Warren Jones series, and there are characters in that book who don't appear later books, etc. I really felt I knew the characters a bit better. So I expanded that, and nothing was ever done with it in the end. So this year I thought, you know what, I put the effort into that story, and I quite like it. I think it's quite a nice little story. It's called "Papering Over the Cracks," and it opens with somebody's been beheaded in a paper mill, which was based on a true story that my dad told me from when he was a young man. So I thought I need to get that out there. So what I did was I have put it on my website, paulgitsham.com, and it's there along with the first couple of chapters of Web of Lies at the end as a sort of preview. So for you to have a little look, see whether you like the look of Web of Lies. But otherwise, it's completely free to download, PDF or ebook. I did convert it to EPUB. So if you want to go to paulgitsham.com, download it, knock yourself out, see if you enjoy it. But yeah, that was really where the journey started with them. I mean, it started right in 2011 with the publication of the first full novel in 2014. And then the first version of Papering Over the Cracks came out in 2013 at the Christmas as a little sneaky peek. Yeah, but not many people have seen it because it was only ever sold through our writing circle. We sold a few hundred copies, and that was it. And that was another thing. I thought actually it'd be quite nice if a few more people read the story.
Good answer. You've got a few comments, a few hellos. Samantha has said hello to Cheryl as well.
Yeah, so yeah, quite a few people know my wife, Cheryl. So she says hi. She's waving from the sofa.
Laura's saying don't mention audiobooks, or Audible's currently having a tantrum. Sam wants to know if your lost signed copies ever turned
Yes,
up.
they did. So those who don't know the story, I, as always, the first book that comes out the box when my publisher sends me my author copies, of course, is the one dedicated to Cheryl. And we were moving some books around, doing a bit of a tidy up a couple of years back, and we could not find them. And it was a shame because, although obviously I could pick up another copy and I could sign it for her, that's not a problem. You know, there's something special about that particular copy. That was the one I handed her the day the box came, so we really wanted to find it. And it got to the point where I was wondering, had I inadvertently sent it off when I signed copies from a competition winner or something? And so I was contacting competition winners, including Sam, who'd won a load of them, and literally saying, "Would you mind having a look inside where the dedications usually are and seeing whether I'd inadvertently sent you the one dedicated to my then fiance?" Um, no, I hadn't been a complete muppet, but eventually it did turn up down the back of the office or something. Really, so yeah, Cheryl suggested it got pushed to the back of another shelf, but I was delighted to find it because it's they are given, because Cheryl, for those who don't know, is also one of my beta readers, and her and my parents go through the first sort of complete draft that's safe to leave the house, and it's been really useful. I mean, they find lots of punctuation errors, and then it would appear seem to put some other ones in, and other ones appear to magically find their way onto the page after me, the proofreaders, the editors, and everybody's looked at it and we've clicked yes, that's fine. Then they seem to arrive, but that's typos for you. However, not only that though, they do give some advice about structure, and Cheryl and I have sat here in the evening sometimes discussing plot points, and so yeah, so the book's very special. The relationship between my wife and my book. So I was a bit disappointed when I thought we lost it, but we did find it. And if you've got Weber Lies, you'll see again. This one is obviously dedicated to Cheryl, and those who know us will know what it means by what I wrote, which was, "To my beloved wife Cheryl, we did it." Those who know us will know exactly what I mean by that.
Mills is laughing at your safe to leave the house description of your draft.
So much. I mean, my books have to be safe to leave the house, and I'll be honest, there are times when I need to be safe to leave the house. So.
At what point do you have a draft that's safe to leave the house from when you start writing?
So I write out of sequence, and I pants. I don't plot. So this, I know, having told people about this sometimes, there are plenty of writers who nod along. There are others who look utterly horrified. It's the writing out of sequence and not plotting bit, I think, which really scares people. But once I get about 3/4 of the way through a book, then I know where it's going, and I will start putting to a rough semblance of order. But to be honest, by the time I finish the document, it looks like I plotted it, because of course I plot as I go along. There is nobody out there who doesn't plot. What actually happens is we plot at different times. Some people plot before they've got the whole draft sorted out before they even lay pen to paper. Jeffrey Deaver very famously is like that, and I believe Laura Shepherd Robinson has said in the past that she plans to the nth degree as well. Others of us plot in small bits as we go along, and towards the end we have a coherent plot. Once I've done that, once I've finally got it all together so I can essentially read it from cover to cover, I print it. Then I decide where the chapters and section breaks are, which is another thing which is slightly unusual. So essentially my document is just one long document initially, but I have subheadings for each section, which is purely for my eyes. When it gets printed for my beta readers, I redact them because they give spoilers. But those allow me to reorganize it. And now that I use Scrivener, which if you're a writer, you probably are familiar with, it's much easier to reorganize those chapters. Once I've done that, once I've put in where I think the chapter breaks should be and the section breaks, then it's time to print it, and it goes out to Cheryl and my parents, and they will red pen it for me, basically. So time wise varies. Could be 6 months, could be 9 months. fastest I've ever written one was actually Web of Lies. If you subtract all the work that had to be done on the existing book, because obviously book 8, Time to Kill, was still going through its edits and stuff when I was writing Web of Lies. If you subtract all of that, then I wrote that in about 3 months, which is, for me, is, I've never done one that fast. And will I ever write one again that fast? I don't know. If I could bottle it.
Donna said hello to both of us. Hi, Donna.
Yes. Hello, Donna. Yes, Donna Morford, for those of you who don't know, is also a big supporter of authors, and also is something of a writer herself, and she does a lot of interviews. So if you enjoy seeing author interviews, go over to Donna's page as well. This is some of them, and she has a unique style, doesn't she, Kaz? I think that's fair to say when it comes to interviewing. Yep.
She does. We've
Very
just
good
got
fun.
Karen's on later, further off here. Karen's said hello, and she's our newest author chat
Hello, Karen.
person. So we'll have to get you and Karen together at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, I'm always willing to do something. It's a good laugh.
Mills has said the idea of plotting any kind of writing makes her want to run away screaming. Laura said the Euro pants are like Anne Cleves.
Oh well, that I would take that as a compliment. Apparently, Lee Child as well. So to be mentioned to be following the same as those three, those two would be absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
I got to interview Anne last week, and she was saying that she was writing a recent Matthew Venn book, I think it was. She was saying there's a body on a beach, and she didn't know who the body was.
Awesome.
When she was writing about it, she was like, "I literally don't know. I just start, and then
yeah,
they tell me who they are."
In all fairness, I tend to have a little bit more than that. I usually know who's done it and one of the reasons why they did it. And I have a couple of ideas about things I want to put in the book in terms of cool scenes. Or I have what I'd like to call my Agatha Christie moment, which is where you take the alibi that is seemingly unbreakable and break it. So those sort of elements will often be in place, but the actual structure of the book is a long way away. Having said that, I mean, I've been writing a couple of other things which hopefully I'll be able to share with the world in a few months' time, and they're more structured. They have to, but by dint of the type of book they are, they need they need some form of holding structure before you can start writing. So my next writing project, which I'll hopefully start in a few weeks' time, then I will actually have to, at the very least, decide what order different sections are in. What's in those sections is who knows, but the actual order of the sections I'll probably have to have in place before I write, because I need structure, because they'll be moving forward and backwards between them. So yeah, so I sometimes plan a little more than I think I do, but I have written the odd book where it has been off you go, just open the tap, let it pour, and see what comes out. And it always makes me laugh whenever one of my Amazon reviewers says, "They're such tightly plotted books." Only they knew. Comes in the editing.
Mills is saying she's going to have to order books, aren't I? And then she's mentioned Sam. Yes, Mills.
Yep. Actually, I mean, it's a little bit of a plug here, but I'm going to ask you nicely if I can actually do it formally in a couple of weeks. I've got some author copies to give away for the paperback, which is coming out on April 27th. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a competition for my newsletter. So at some point, I shall ask our lovely admins whether I can put a link on the Facebook group to my newsletter. All you need to do is sign up to it, and then the instructions that you need are inside the newsletter. Free to enter, obviously. And I've got 3 paperback copies to give away. Possibly, and I don't want to overpromise here in case there's issues where it won't work, but possibly I might be able to give away a couple of audiobook copies as well. I believe we can gift credits. I need to look into that. If I can, then I might give away a couple of audio copies as well. But anyway, I'll let you know. But it's all to the good. It's just sign up to the newsletter. I'll let people know when the next newsletter coming out. By the way, my newsletters are really infrequent. I really only put them out when I've got something interesting I want to share. So you won't be bombarded.
So keep an eye out, Mills. Then you can
Yeah.
sign up and win a book
It's
instead of
called,
buying a book.
and it's called, the first book's called The Last Straw, Mills. I see that you've asked there. So The Last Straw. Let's see.
How do you keep? So you've been writing Warren for years.
Yeah.
Even a number of books. How do you keep the series fresh? But
Well, this is where I'm going to make it sound like I do plan stuff. I don't really. One thing I do plan a little bit is I know the character arcs. I know what these characters are going to happen. It's got roughly what's going to happen to over the next few books. I mean, I don't mean in detail, but I mean this life event's going to happen. This life event's going to happen. So by doing that, then obviously that gives me something that I have to aim for when I write a book. So if new and exciting things are happening to those characters in their private lives, then obviously that's going to help keep things fresh. In terms of the actual keeping the writing and the mysteries fresh, well, to be honest with you, when you write a long running series, you get to know your characters really well, and so you start to have thoughts about what would they do in certain situations and what would you like them to do in certain situations, because they become almost like companions, but companions where you can actually control everything they do. I mean, it's like if you have control freak tendencies, become a writer. That's all I'm going to say. And so therefore, that part of it actually seems to keep itself fresh, because you're back again for another visit with your old friends. What are we going to do this time? What would be interesting if they did? In terms of the mystery, well, I get my inspiration from the world around me. We watch a lot of true crime, probably more than is healthy, and there's always these little snippets. And funnily enough, you can never figure out where on earth the idea came from. But I was sitting watching something, and like this book's a great case in point, Web of Lies. I was sitting watching one of these true life documentaries, and they had an interview scene. It was UK interview, and it was the usual setup. There are a couple of police officers at the table. There is a solicitor with their face blurred out, scribbling notes, and then there's some hapless idiot in a grey tracksuit trying to deny that he's done what he has blatantly done. That in itself, not, I've seen it a million times. The crime that he committed, couldn't even remember it. But for some reason, it triggered this cascade of ideas. And I can't say too much because it would give things away, but there was a solicitor involved in this. And so I thought, right. So I reached out to a couple of solicitor friends from the Crime Rights Association. I'd been fortunate enough to be sat on their table at a dinner a couple of years ago. We got chatting. And I asked them whether the scenario I had in mind for this book was possible. And they immediately got back and said, no. It would be deeply unethical. I knew that anyway, but I needed their thoughts. And then they worked with me and told me what could happen. So I twisted the story. And in fact, actually, I think it improved upon that. And then when I came back to them with this central premise, they were like, yeah, that could happen. I mean, it pushes the bounds of legality and it pushes the bounds of ethics. But then, that's the nature of the sort of book you're writing. And they said, yeah, that should work. So any errors, legal errors, are mine, by the way, because once they give me that idea, then it was all down to me trying to use that idea. But that was fresh. That was just came out of the blue. And in fact, I wasn't even supposed to write the book I've written for Web of Lies. I'd given my publisher a completely different synopsis, but they never remember. They only give them a couple of paragraphs and it's just accepted. Oh, okay, another 3 Warren Jones. Absolutely fine. He knows what he's going to write. We'll leave him and we'll rack this cage in 3 years' time and see what he wants to do next. That basically is how it came. And I was about to start writing the third on the contract when this brainwave happened, and I just had to write it. I had to write it. That's the one I wrote in all told probably 3 months in front of the computer. Just, there we go, bang. And if you write a book that fast, the chances are, I think, you're probably onto something. It might be a mess and you might need to do a hell of a lot of editing, but if it flows like that, I figure somebody's telling you something. It's coming out of you. So obviously it's a story that works and needs to be told.
What's the reception been like to it?
Pretty good, actually. Yeah, I sent it out in advance. So I used NetGalley, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So I had quite a lot of people obviously download it from NetGalley, and they started putting their reviews. And generally speaking, pretty positive. A lot of people like it. They say it's complex, lots of twists. Web of Lies is a good description for it, and I like that. See, because I like a complex novel. I like one that's got lots of twists and turns. And I'm sure there are people out there who one or two have said a bit too complicated for me. Fine, that's that's fine. You choose read something else. But for those who like something that's complex, it seems to be ticking all the boxes. And I also had a number of fellow authors read it, and they've been really positive and really kind. So up on the Amazon page, I've obviously collected a few of those quotes. Tana Collins was very kind. Liz Mystery wrote something lovely about it, and that's real praise because I really like her writing. Alex Shaw, who's more into thrillers, but I like his thrillers, and he enjoys Police Procedure, and he was very kind. So a lot of these folks have been really generous, and it's just lovely to see that. So reception wise, yeah, I've been very pleased so far.
You're selling Mills by the minute. She likes books that tie her brains in knots.
Fantastic. Right, one more customer. That's excellent.
Laura's already downloaded book one.
Say again, sorry.
Laura's already downloaded book one.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, Laura. That's very generous of you. I mean, you build your readership one reader at a time. I think there is something true to be said about that, because people's relationships with books is so individual. And if they like a book, they tell somebody else that they liked it. And so I think, you can get you can get blown away by the numbers, or you can get befuddled by numbers. It's sold this many units, and this, and it's doing this and this and this on these charts, etc. But actually, what I think the most important thing is that those one-to-one interactions where someone said they really enjoyed it, and they said they told someone else that they liked it, and that's fantastic. It's just lovely, and I'm really looking forward to going to Crime Fest in particular this year. I'm going to be doing a panel, and then I've also agreed to do Criminal Mastermind on the Sunday. I've chosen the Lincoln Lawyer books by Michael Connolly as my specialist subject. So I shall be humiliated in front of lots of people. Although Michael Connolly has given me his personal endorsement when I mentioned I was thinking of doing this at Harrogate Crime Festival. But actually, with the great thing about Crime Fest and Harrogate and all these things is when you meet people. Other writers is lovely, and readers. And Crime Fest, you have a badge as well with your name on, so people actually may recognize your name even if they don't know what you look like. And so you can be chatting randomly to someone in a pub, and I know they'll tell you that they are familiar with your books, or they ask you what you write, and you pitch it to them, and they like it, and they say, I'll go away and read that. And that's lovely. I mean, that's just, you think, well, I've just explained to you what my books are like, and you seem to think that's up your street. And then I just hope I don't disappoint them is the main thing.
I like writing mastermind quizzes for my kids for my form, which is really good fun because you learn so much about their chosen specialist subjects. But I've learned more about different bus companies and all sorts of random stuff than I ever needed to know.
I can imagine.
Sometimes I pick something that's really fun, like Eurovision, and you can go down a really fun rabbit hole. And then sometimes it's like, I want to know about first bus in this particular area and only like this particular chassis numbers and things. And you're like,
Well, we love the BBC quiz night on a Monday. You know, where you've got Mastermind, Only Connect, although obviously that series is finished now, and the University Challenge. We watch those three back to back. And the Mastermind is a very gentle start, because for the specialist subject, we're almost certainly not going to be trying to answer the questions. So that's usually where we finish off eating our tea, and then for the random, you know, the well, general knowledge, then that's the competitive bit, and we do count how many we get on that. Cheryl usually has the edge over me. She's very good at random trivia. And then Only Connect, which is brilliant just because it's just bonkers and surreal, and it really twists your brain. And then University Challenge, which you feel so smug if you get a question right. See how many. I have started keeping score actually to see how many I can get right in an episode, but it does vary enormously. But yeah, we'd love that. And so when Adrian said at Crime Fest, do you have any volunteers to do Criminal Mastermind next year? Stuart Field put his hand up and said, I'll do it. And I thought, well, if Stuart can do it, I can do it. So I put my hand up and volunteered. Stuart's now is not coming, having got me into that position. He's now not able to attend this year. So that's a shame. But I really thought, I said I'd do it. And then I thought, I actually had to have a specialist subject. I just couldn't think. And then I thought, what I need is a series of books, relatively short series. When you think, don't say something daft like, you know, Agatha Christie. I mean, good God, there's hundreds of them. So I said, Michael Connelly's Lincoln Lawyer, and there's about 6 or 7 of them. So I could really swat up on those. I've just started doing that now properly. I had them all, but I've gone back to them, and I'm actually taking notes as I read them. Because we keep on saying it's a little bit of fun. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, but oh no, I have a strategy and everything. So
there's a kind of a competitive streak in.
Well, you have to, don't you? Really, you gotta put a good show on. And I mean, it had been really competitive when Stuart was still going. We were even going to get matching T-shirts, but alas, that isn't going to happen. But,
Mills picked up on what you were saying about the word of mouth. She's saying if she likes books, she doesn't shut up about it. She swears that we want to meet her on a weekly basis, which is, as Sam said, absolutely not true. But she's a really big supporter of
yeah,
the group and authors. And I do exactly the same. If I read a book I love,
I
I
do.
don't know how many people I forced to buy my book of the year last year, but it was quite a lot.
Well, I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I was Christmas is coming, and I'm thinking, what on earth do I buy my sister and her husband? Really struggling, and in the end, I chose them a couple of books that I'd really enjoyed that year, and I sort of wrapped them up and sent them off. And then when it was coming to that November again, and I'm like to my mum on WhatsApp saying, "For God's sake, have you got any idea what to get my sister for Christmas?" Kate responding said, "We really liked your choice of books last year. Can you do it again?" And it was great because I put a little note in them and explained why I chose them and why I enjoyed them. So I really liked that. It was really good fun. You know, and I really like. My wife's the same. You sometimes put a book down and you say, "You know who'd like that," and you pass it on. And I mean, to be fair, it's the same. It's the same with TV and films as well. We have our weekly film nights. We take it in turns to choose, and quite often we'll finish it with, "Well, I think your parents would like that," or "I know something like that." But books, yeah, they're wonderful. They're such amazing things to pass around and hand out. And of course, libraries. Now that you can download ebooks from libraries really easily. If you can't get there physically, I think it's terrific. Share and share alike. Tell people they don't have to buy it. They borrow it from a library. We get our little PLR payment, which sometimes, frankly, is more than the royalties on the book if it's deeply discounted. So I say, yeah, let the world know.
So while we're there on you sort of doing your recommendations and things, Tell us what you've read recently or what you've read this year that you've really enjoyed.
Ooh, right, okay.
Some recommendations.
So
Doesn't have to be crime.
let's split everyone first. Split them right down the middle. Richard Osman's latest, the Bullet That Missed. Now I know that is a bit Marmite. People love them or loathe them. I thoroughly enjoy them, as I think they're really good fun. What I really liked about this third book is he's now become really confident. He knows these characters back to front. He has the luxury of having sold so many copies, and that he has a built-in fan base, that he can make some assumptions about what you know about the characters already. So he doesn't perhaps have to do quite as much explaining sometimes as authors who might, this is my 9th book in the series, but I have to assume that there's a very good chance that whoever's picking it up has never read any of the others. I think he has the luxury of not having to make that assumption. And I just thought it was great. It was a very complex and satisfying story. The characterization is fantastic, and he's clearly setting up for a few more new characters. So I really like that. Now, I've just read Harlan Coben, and this is where I regret not doing this by my bedside table. Runaway. That was the one I just read. That was really good. I always enjoy Harlan Coben anyway, but that was a really nice, twisty one. I read that. Karen Slaughter, always love Karen. Now this was this is where I'd never even crossed my mind to double check this. Not The Silent Wife.
I sprang it on you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I should know how these things go, shouldn't I? It's quite good. I should always have a load of these lists because I'm a writer and I'd love promoting other people writers' work. Sorry, Karen, if you're watching, I apologize. I've gone completely blank because it was such a good book as well. No, it's one of her latest ones, 2021. It's got loads of pandemic stuff in, which is really good. Cheryl is on Wikipedia as we speak, trying to find the name of the book. The great thing about this book was that it was very contemporaneous. It was published about a year ago. I do tend to have a pile and just get to them whenever. It was False Witness, Genesis, Pieces of Her. False Witness. That's the one. That was 2021, was it? Yeah. False Witness. Right, got it. Very good. Yeah, Sam Brownlee's just suggested it as well. False Witness. It's set with a load of pandemic stuff, and I know people have said, "Oh, not sure about that." Well, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. You can't ignore it, can you? Fortunately, Warren hasn't had to deal with it because the books tend to run 2 or 3 years behind. This book is 2019, although I don't explicitly say the year, so he's just missed out on it. But it's really well done, and it's not a pandemic book in the sense that it relies on the pandemic and it's all about the pandemic, but it reflects the times. Michael Conley, by the way, is up to date as well. His latest ones reflect that. The latest Ballard, Rene Ballard book, which I read, I think I read just before Christmas. That talks a bit about COVID. They take precautions. Some people will wear masks, others aren't, etc. So I like that sort of immediacy to them. But yeah, I definitely recommend those 3 I've just spoken about. You do realize that every so often I'm going to interject with the title of a book as it brings to my mind.
Totally fine. I'm being blamed for making people buy lessons in chemistry.
Do you know what? I've not read that yet. I have heard it is fantastic.
It is absolutely. It was my favorite book of last year.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And one of my favorite books of this year so far is coming out in April. It's called The Maiden by Kate Foster.
Right. So is that?
I really recommend that when it comes out. It's historical, based on a true crime.
Yep.
And it's like a historical retelling of how she thinks the person got to committing the crime.
Oh, right. Okay. That's quite an original concept. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's like a famous ghost story in Edinburgh. It's about someone who like killed their uncle and lover.
I can see not one, but both of my wife's eyebrows have gone up in interest now. So there's a possibility. What? The Maiden by Kate Foster, was that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Yeah. She's online now. Right. Okay. Good.
It comes out really soon and is really
Yeah.
excellent.
Oh, fantastic.
I think it's going to be somewhere there that at the end of the year it might be my new lessons in chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. I mean, I read recently the latest Nikki Parek book by Liz Mystery. That's good. I'd read a couple earlier in the series, and if you're looking for proper character development over a number of books, then that's terrific. I mean, you could pick this up and read it anyway. You wouldn't need to have read the series, but I thought it was absolutely excellent, and a real proper one of these books where it's a proper whodunit, if you like. And in fact, what I like about it is it opens with a almost a, what do they call it, closed room mystery, where you're trying to work out, well, there's basically a load of people sitting around, a family have been sitting around a Monopoly board, and there's they're all slaughtered around this Monopoly board, but there's an empty chair, and who on earth has slaughtered them and why? And then there's a second story that's going on. Now you know that they're going to be linked as a reader, but there's no way they could know that. So you've got that delicious following the story, but also just having that little extra knowledge, that foresight, that something is going to connect these two things, even though they don't know it yet. And I just thought it's great. And the character of Nikki Parek just gets better and better. And terrific book. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was going to Bradford at the weekend to drop off some flyers for our live event.
Oh, right. Okay.
Was literally sat on the bus with my husband telling him about Moe's samosas from the Gus Maguire books. And I was like, I really want Moe's samosas to exist in real life so we could go.
Well, I mean, what I like about that is she has a tremendous sense of place. Endgame, I think is what it's called. I think is that the one?
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
That's the one. Yeah, Endgame. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, she does have a tremendous sense of place. Now, I've not actually been to Bradford, but I do feel that I know the place because of the way she's read it and she's written it. And I really like when an author does that. Michael Connelly with Los Angeles. I've never been to Los Angeles, but I feel I've walked the streets, the really rough places with Harry Bosch. I also feel I've been to the really swanky places where some of Mickey Haller's clients hang out. I do love a sense of place.
Worth going to Bradford. Has amazing curries and one of the most beautiful waterstones.
Oh, right. Okay. Actually, Waterstones, I like Waterstones because they're very supportive of authors. Always up for a book launch. I've been to 2 or 3 Waterstones book launches over the years, and they make you feel very welcome. I've not had one myself yet, but that's on the to-do list, definitely.
Yeah, they are cool, but the Bradford Waterstone's beautiful. It's in the old wool exchange, so it's just this lovely old vaulted ceiling.
Well, I'll have to check that out if I find my way up there.
Well, when you're in Harrogate, you're not a million miles away.
No, and 2025, as my wife informs me, is City of Culture. So, sorry? For Bradford, yeah. So it's going to be be a very good time to visit, actually.
Has a film festival too.
Of course it does, yes. And the film festival, obviously. Very cultural place. Yeah, Coventry is where I'm from. And of course, that was City of Culture 21. But I mean, talk about lousy timing. Couldn't make it up there at all. And it's a shame because Kaz Freer who actually went to school with me. She was a year below. She also is based in Coventry, and if things had been different, when we were in the middle of this pandemic, then possibly could have hooked up with her and done a couple of events together, which would have been lovely. But such is life. Lousy timing. Coventry did celebrate, by the way. They did have plenty of things, but it wasn't practical, unfortunately, for us to get there because of the difficulty of the pandemic. But Bradford City of Culture 2025. Give me an excuse. Maybe we should do a 2-for-1. We come back from Harrogate, stop off in Bradford for a bit. There's a British Library there, which is cool.
Yeah, there's a branch of the British Library in Wetherby as well, which is on the outskirts of Leeds.
Yeah, the Boston. Yeah, I think that's it's the same area. Yeah, Boston Spa. Yeah, cool.
I think I know someone who works there.
Yeah, and my wife has links to the British Library, so she keeps she's very interested in this sort of thing. Yeah, which the British Library is fantastic because they administer public lending right, which is the money we get when you borrow our books from libraries. This is why one of the reasons we push libraries. There are so many reasons to push libraries, not least because the vast majority of us writers started out spending far longer than was healthy inside libraries and coming out with huge piles of books, and your parents going, "You're never going. Why have you got? You're never going to read all those." And you're thinking, "I am. I'm going to borrow your ticket next week." Happy memories. But they do support writers. We get a few pence every time a book is borrowed, and for some writers, it can make a real significant difference. For writers in particular who are perhaps no longer writing, they've retired. It can be a nice little pension boost for them. And by the way, it's not all going to James Patterson and Lee Child. There is a cap. The pot is divided in such a way that there is an upper limit of about £6,500 a year, and that's that. No matter how many above that, you don't get any more, which is brilliant because it means that the rest of the pot is then distributed amongst small authors. Yeah, and a lot of the big authors don't claim it; they just leave it in the pot so that it's divided a bit more between the other writers. So yes, it's a very good system.
It is, and something I didn't know as well about it. I'm going to start asking you the questions on the stream now instead of just telling you to go to places. So Sam said you mentioned you had a conversation with a lawyer about Web of Lies.
I did, yes.
And then the details used were your own. Has creative license ever got you in trouble? I liked that question.
I think it never got me in trouble. A couple of times I've probably, I might have pushed the bounds of credibility slightly. Ironically, one of the funny things is when the series was nearly derailed when I started writing it because of this. People may have heard this before, but basically my books are set in a fictional town called Middlesbrough. Now, I started writing this book. It's in North Hertfordshire, which was close to where I was living at the time. The town's fictional, but by anchoring it in a real place, what it means you can do is you can be consistent between books when you talk about distances and timings and things. It's just a little trick to make your writing a bit easier. So I can actually use Google Maps when I'm planning car journeys and stuff for Warren by simply putting in the name of the town that is geographically in a position where Middlesbrough is. But anyway, so I start writing it, and then I find out when I'm about 3/4 of the way through that all of the major crime units in Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire and now Cambridgeshire are all run out of a single major crime building down in Welwyn Garden City. The whole lot. And it was like, that doesn't work for me, because what I need is that small a unit, because I need to limit my characters. I need that team that works together every day, and I want Warren to be in the middle. So DCI arguably is too high a rank for him to be doing all the things he does, but I can explain it away. So he's a DCI. He's got someone above him. He's got a team below him. It doesn't work if it's in a huge big building with hundreds and hundreds of detectives who are brought in as and when needed on a big investigation, which of course is the most efficient way of doing it. I mean, let's not criticize what is a very effective system. It doesn't work from my books. So I thought, oh God. So I went and spoke to a former police officer in front of my dad's, and he said, and I said, look, what I'm thinking of is, because this is right on the very edge of Hertfordshire, it's about as far away from Welwyn Garden City as you can be and still be in the county. I thought perhaps, given it's semi-rural, a first response CID unit, whereby basically small team, they deal with a major crime initially and then call in support from the main team. Complete fudge. No such thing ever existed. But his response was, yeah, sounds like the sort of thing the police would do. And funny enough, that one decision then actually became a really positive one, because it gave me a source of external tension whereby the unit is actually under threat, because the merging, although it's a very efficient way of doing things, was also to do with saving money. So why on earth has Middlesbrough got this special unit? So they're always fighting for their survival in that sense. It also meant that, like so many authors, I have a DCI who interviews suspects, which of course just does not happen in real life. Interviews are conducted by detective constables primarily, interview specialists, and sometimes a few detective sergeants. But once you get above that, you don't tend to see the whites of the criminal's eyes, and you don't go out to relatively fresh crime scenes either. You might go sometime down the line, but you're not there with a white suit on poking around. But I thought, well, if this tiny little unit is a first response unit, then his boss basically just does delegates everything to Warren because he'd rather be playing golf. Then actually we can kind of explain it away. And in fact, it's become a little bit of a joke in later books where I'd have to think of a new way of explaining why Warren is going to crime scenes and stuff, and have jokes, from other colleagues at his rank who are watch him jealously leaving a meeting as he goes off to interview someone because they haven't interviewed anyone for years. And another character in his book, who's another DCI, says, "Oh, I haven't had a good poke around a crime scene for ages," So, so what was artistic license, which could have got me into trouble if I had not addressed it, actually I think became a strength of the series. And it doesn't 100% answer that question, but I think sometimes, if you address a criticism head on, you can get away with it, because what you don't want is your readers thinking you're a bit of an idiot who hasn't done any research. As they say, learn the rules before you break the rules. And so if you can then say, yeah, I know this wouldn't happen in real life, but hey, this is how I explain it, then at least they won't think you're an idiot who hasn't done the research, which is, half the battle, I think, sometimes.
Well, I like how you were saying you kind of point that out by having people who are DCIs, sort of saying, well, that's not what I do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you're addressing that you know that.
Yeah, I put it actually quite explicitly in one book. He's possibly the only DCI in the country who still interviews suspects. I thought, well, I'll just address it head on. And in fact, as time goes on, and every time they threaten to shut down the unit, or it's not giving much away anyway, but I mean, his original boss has retired now, and he's got a new boss in Webber Lies, and that gives him that's one of the stress things that worries him slightly, is that this new boss might not let him carry on doing that, because that's not the way they do it. He's got enviable crime statistics, but is that enough to allow him to work the way he's always worked, and to keep Middlesbrough as this unique first responder unit? External tension, which is, as we say in the writing courses, you have internal tension, you have external tension, and that's the external tension.
So I'm going to ask you another one of Sam's favourite questions now, and maybe Cheryl can answer this as well.
Why?
If your your books got turned into a TV show, who would you play?
Who would I play?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Also, who would Cheryl play?
Right. Have a think about that, Cheryl. she's got that rabbit. Cheryl's going to currently play Rabbit Trapped in Headlights. Right. Who would I play? Well, but in an ideal world, I play Warren because, frankly, he is wish fulfillment to a degree. Although, I love being a scientist. I love being a writer. I mean, there's part of me that would love to have been a police officer. I mean, if reincarnation existed and you could remember your previous lives, it'd be great, because I'd just come back and say, right, I had a great time doing this. Now this time round, I'm going to be a detective. So me playing it would be lovely. I suspect more if I was going to be playing a character, it would be rather chubby bloke in a newsagent who silently hands over whatever they've just bought whilst the key dialogue's happening between the two major characters. I think that would be the role that I would end up playing, to be honest. Yeah, probably nothing more meaty than that. Because I'm not sure I want to play any of the really nasty characters. Because I've had some real horrible ones. No, I think I would rather just be a supporting character in the background. I mean, Harlan Coben, if you look carefully at some of his adaptations, not all, but some of his adaptations, you can see a tall man with light brown skin and a bald head, usually playing at a computer as a technician. That's usually Harlan. So maybe that's what I'd do. Right, over to you, Cheryl. What are you going to play?
Probably stressed commuter rushing past the crime scene, oblivious to everything.
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear that, Cheryl suggested stressed commuter rushing past the crime scene, oblivious to everything. Yeah, I mean, Cheryl spent most of her life working in London, so she's very good at the stressed commuter racing past things. She's an expert on that.
You've got the answer of love it to that. I mean, Terry Pratchett was in a lot of his adaptations. He was often like the postman delivering something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of. I mean, Lee Child. He was in both of those Tom Cruise films. So he played a border. I think he played a police officer in one and perhaps a border guy in another. Obviously, he had to remain seated because if he stood up, he's 6'4", and he would just emphasize how short Tom Cruise was. But he appeared in the very end of Reacher, which was just awesome, by the way. If people have not seen it, looking at Amazon, amazing. And he obviously appeared very briefly in the end of that non-speaking cameo. I'm not sure I'd want to, outside of bizarre fantasy land, I'm not sure I'd want to actually be a major character. I mean, the main thing would be to get myself on screen on a major drama, for no matter how briefly, just because my best mate is as a drama teacher and has got a master's degree in acting and stuff, and he's never done anything like that. It would mainly for boasting rights, to be honest.
Sam said she's going to write in a specific character, just in case.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might have to do that. Yeah, they need to meet more newsagent. So actually, a couple of books. Yeah, people, they go and collect CCTV from newsagents and stuff. So yeah, I could play that. I could be stocking a shelf in the background.
Yeah, Sam will be tiny feisty lady who
gets escorted away from the crime scene.
Yeah.
No, you cannot come through here. I don't care if this is the way you always walk your dog. There's been a murder. Okay, give me that look. Yeah, we know the sort. Yeah, we know the sort. Yeah,
that's your role. Now we've got a minute left. Remind people like Mills, who's watching, what she's going to go away and buy.
Right. Okay. So the latest is Web of Lies, currently available as ebook. Will be available on as paperback and audiobook. Do not just plug it to my website, but do pop along to paulgitsham.com, because if you sign up to my newsletter, then coming out in the next couple of weeks, that newsletter will have opportunities to win paperbacks and possibly, fingers crossed, audiobooks. And also, if you are interested in writing, I have my blog, my Tuesday Tips writing blog. if you're interested in writing, not just as a writer, but just perhaps you want to see a little bit behind the curtain, then have a look at that and find out. I do an infrequent recommended reads blog. I don't give 5-star ratings. It's literally books I really like, and I think others will do as well. So that's quite infrequent. But yeah, paulgitsham.com. There's lots of stuff to see there. So thank you very much for your time, folks. Much appreciated.
Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you very much. That awkward silence before we get cut off.